The camera flickers on. A crowd roars in confusion as the arena lights cut through smoke. At the center, Roger Jackson towers above a motionless body, fists dripping with sweat, fury, and the shadow of something much darker than a scripted fight. This wasn't entertainment anymore, it was real. The audience gasped, phones recording every second, capturing the unseen footage that would soon set the internet on fire. What happened in that ring wasn't just an accident. It was a moment that would change lives, careers, and reputations forever. The roar of the crowd that night wasn't like any other. Usually, the energy in a wrestling arena had a predictable rhythm: cheers for the babyfaces, boos for the heels, gasps when someone hit a big move. But on that Saturday night in Los Angeles, the atmosphere shifted from excitement to confusion, and then to something far more unsettling. When Roger Jackson walked into the building, few people knew who he really was. Some recognized the name because of his father, Quinton "Rampage" Jackson, the legendary MMA fighter. Others knew him only as a streamer trying to carve out an identity outside the shadow of his father. But that night, Roger was supposed to play a minor role in an independent wrestling event. Just a cameo, something light-hearted, maybe even a tease for future appearances. At first, the setup seemed simple. A veteran wrestler known as Psycho Stu was supposed to hit Roger with a staged prop. It was supposed to look brutal but be harmless, a way to spark a storyline to give the audience a shocking but safe moment. Wrestling fans are used to blurring the lines between reality and fiction, between performance and genuine tension. But Roger Jackson wasn't trained for those blurred lines. He was a fighter, not a performer. The first sign that something was wrong came when Stu smashed a beer can over Roger's head during a backstage skit. Cameras caught Roger stiffening up, his expression hardening rather than selling the moment like a wrestler would. Instead of going along with the act, he looked furious. In the background, another wrestler could be heard saying nervously, "Yo, watch out, he's not a worker." Those words would later echo across countless replays online. The misunderstanding could have ended right there. Stu apologized, extending his hand to smooth things over, admitting he thought Roger was in on the act. For a moment, it seemed like the situation would cool down. But cameras rolling, tensions high, and adrenaline surging, Roger wasn't satisfied. In his world, MMA and streaming culture, respect wasn't negotiated through apologies. It was earned through dominance. Promoters tried to salvage the tension, whispering that Roger could get his receipt later in the show. In wrestling, a receipt means a controlled hit in response to a stiff shot. It's symbolic, a way to keep things fair without escalating into real violence. But Roger misunderstood. To him, a receipt wasn't playful. It was payback, plain and simple. By the time the show reached its midpoint, Roger was seated ringside. Cameras showed him restless, shifting in his chair, glaring at Stu, who was already in the ring for his scheduled match. Fans thought they were watching a clever bit of storytelling, a real, life grudge spilling into the scripted world of wrestling. What they didn't know was that something entirely unscripted was about to unfold. Then, without warning, Roger vaulted over the guardrail. His athleticism was undeniable. The crowd roared at the sudden intrusion, assuming this was part of the show. He slid into the ring with the speed of a trained fighter, grabbed Stu, and executed a double leg takedown, so precise it looked ripped straight from an MMA cage. The slam echoed across the canvas, Stu's head bouncing off the mat in a way that was far too real. Gasps erupted. Still, many in the audience thought they were witnessing a brilliant spot. Wrestling thrives on blurring reality after all. But as Roger mounted Stu and began raining down fists, hard, unpulled, vicious punches, the illusion shattered. These weren't worked punches. They weren't the pulled shots that wrestlers are trained to throw. They were live strikes, the kind designed to finish fights, not entertain crowds. At first, the referee hesitated. Was this part of the act? Wrestlers nearby froze, uncertain whether to intervene. Only when Stu went limp, his arms no longer raised to defend himself, did panic finally spread. The footage, captured from multiple cell phones and the official event live stream, showed Roger delivering over 20 punches to a defenseless opponent. The crowd shifted from cheering to screaming. Some fans even rushed toward the ring, horrified at what they were seeing. It took half a dozen wrestlers to pull Roger off. His chest heaved, sweat pouring down his face as he shouted to no one in particular, "I told y'all I wasn't playing." The words cut through the noise, proof that this wasn't some scripted stunt gone wrong. He believed he had been disrespected, and in that ring, he had chosen to settle it the only way he knew, through raw violence. Security escorted Roger out of the building, while Stu lay motionless on the mat. Medics rushed in, strapping him to a stretcher as horrified fans recorded every moment. Children in the audience cried. Some adults shouted angrily at the promoters. Others sat in stunned silence. Later that night, reports surfaced that Psycho Stu had been rushed to the hospital with multiple facial fractures, missing teeth, and severe head trauma. Though he was stable, his career, and possibly his life, hung in the balance. Meanwhile, Roger went live on social media, defending himself. "Everybody keeps playing with me," he said, eyes blazing into the camera. "This ain't no game. You disrespect me, you get handled. I don't care if it's wrestling, MMA, or real life." Within hours, the clip of the attack went viral. Hashtags flooded Twitter. Wrestling forums exploded with outrage. MMA fans shook their heads in disbelief. The footage was replayed across YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter, each time sparking new waves of anger, shock, and debate. Commentators compared it to infamous shoot incidents in wrestling history, moments when reality shattered kayfabe, like the Montreal Screwjob or the mass brawls of the Territory days. But this wasn't just a work gone wrong. This was something far more dangerous, far more unpredictable. Unseen footage kept surfacing, angles from fans who were closer to the ring, capturing the fear in Stu's eyes just before the slam, the panic in the crowd as Roger refused to stop punching. Every clip made the situation worse, every replay turning Roger into more of a villain. By dawn the next morning, the story had already leapt beyond the wrestling bubble. Major news outlets picked it up. Pundits called for Roger's arrest. Fans demanded justice for Stu. Even mainstream celebrities weighed in, some offering support for Stu's recovery, others condemning Roger's actions as attempted murder in front of a live audience. But the real storm was only beginning. By the time Sunday morning arrived, the wrestling world was in chaos. Social media feeds were dominated by one thing: the unseen footage of Roger Jackson's Rampage. Clips of the attack were stitched, slowed down, replayed with commentary, and analyzed frame by frame. Memes circulated, but they weren't funny. They were angry, bitter, and horrified. For veteran wrestlers, the incident struck a nerve. Wrestling is built on trust. When two performers step into the ring, they are literally putting their lives in each other's hands. Every suplex, every slam, every high-flying move requires cooperation and protection. A wrestler who ignores that trust isn't just careless, they are dangerous, and Roger Jackson had shown himself to be dangerous in the worst way possible. On Twitter, respected names in the industry spoke out. One retired WWE star wrote, "I've seen stiff shots, I've seen accidents, but this was pure assault. No place for it in wrestling." Another veteran echoed the same, saying, "If you don't know the difference between working and fighting, you don't belong anywhere near the business." Meanwhile, fans filled forums with furious debates. Some argued Roger had been baited, provoked by Stu's unscripted beer can smash. Others insisted nothing could justify what happened after. That 20 punches to an unconscious man wasn't a mistake, it was intent. Wrestling journalists scrambled to gather details. Was Roger actually booked to appear, or was it a spur of the moment stunt? Was he promised payback in the ring, or had he acted on his own? Different sources told different stories, but the consensus was clear. The promoters had lost control and Roger had crossed a line no one could ignore. By Sunday afternoon, a statement from the promotion, Knox Expo Entertainment, hit the press. It condemned Roger's actions as selfish, irresponsible, and reprehensible. The statement claimed that while a light-hearted skit had been planned, what unfolded in the ring was never agreed upon, never scripted, and never condoned. Fans demanded refunds. Parents who had brought children to the show blasted organizers for failing to keep the event safe. But the fallout wasn't confined to wrestling. Roger's streaming career took an immediate hit. Kick, the platform where he broadcast most of his content, suspended his account indefinitely, citing violations of community guidelines against violence. His last live stream, where he had bragged about not playing games and dared critics to challenge him, was replayed endlessly as evidence of his volatile mindset. Then came the legal questions. The Los Angeles Police Department confirmed it was investigating the incident. While no charges had been filed yet, sources reported detectives were reviewing the footage to determine whether Roger's actions constituted aggravated assault or even attempted manslaughter. The possibility of a criminal trial loomed. Behind the scenes, Roger's father, Rampage Jackson, issued his own statement. Torn between disappointment and defense, Rampage admitted his son had shown bad judgment and should never have been put in that position. He revealed Roger had suffered a concussion in sparring days earlier and had no business performing at all. Yet, even as he condemned the violence, Rampage asked for compassion, reminding people that his son was still young, still trying to find his way in the world. But compassion was in short supply. Across wrestling podcasts and YouTube channels, commentators debated whether Roger should be blacklisted entirely. Some said he was finished before his career even began. Others argued that the industry had seen violent outbursts before and redemption, though rare, was possible. Yet almost no one defended the attack itself. The unseen footage only fueled the outrage. A new angle uploaded late Sunday showed Roger's face twisted with fury as he straddled Stu, pounding away with unrelenting strikes. The clip caught the moment fans at ringside realized something was wrong. Reeks, panicked shouts, children crying. A man's voice can be heard yelling, "Stop him, he's out cold." It was damning, indisputable evidence that this wasn't just wrestling gone wrong. Meanwhile, Stu's condition became the focus of sympathy and concern. Updates from the hospital revealed he had sustained multiple facial fractures, broken teeth, and severe swelling around the brain. Though doctors assured fans he was stable, they also warned his recovery would be long and uncertain. For a man who had once described wrestling as his way of coping with trauma after serving in the military, the irony was cruel. Even celebrities weighed in. A viral post from YouTube megastar Mr. Beast offered financial support for Stu's medical bills, calling the footage heartbreaking to watch. Other athletes shared messages of solidarity, framing Stu as a victim of reckless aggression. Fans created hashtags #justice for Stu, #banRoger, #respectthering, that trended across platforms. Yet through it all, Roger remained defiant. He posted cryptic messages on Instagram claiming he had been set up, that people were twisting the truth and that he had simply defended himself. He framed the backlash as hate, writing, "Y'all don't want to see me win, that's fine, I'll fight everybody, won't be the first time." But the more he spoke, the worse it got. Screenshots of private Discord chats leaked, showing Roger joking with friends about making headlines and mocking people who called him a criminal. Whether genuine or out of context, the leaks destroyed any chance of sympathy. Promoters across the independent circuit quickly distanced themselves. Within 2 days, events that had considered booking Roger issued public denials. "We value safety and professionalism," one wrote bluntly, "and we will never put our talent or fans at risk." By Monday, major sports networks had picked up the story. Debate shows featured clips of the unseen footage, with analysts comparing it to infamous sports scandals. Tanya Harding's attack on Nancy Kerrigan, Ron Artest's brawl in the NBA stands, Mike Tyson biting Evander Holyfield's ear. The consensus: Roger Jackson had turned a staged performance into a real, life spectacle of violence, and the consequences would follow him forever, but not everyone agreed. A small but vocal group of Roger's supporters claimed he was being unfairly targeted because of his family name. They argued that Stu had initiated the tension by striking Roger without warning, and that Roger had every right to defend himself. If someone hit you in the head with a beer can, what would you do? One commenter wrote, echoing a sentiment that spread across certain MMA forums. The split created a toxic cycle online, defenders clashing with critics, debates devolving into insults, and every new clip of the Rampage serving as fresh ammunition. Amid the storm, one question lingered: what would happen next? Would Roger face charges? Would Stu ever return to the ring? Would wrestling promoters and stream platforms close their doors permanently on the young fighter? The answers weren't clear yet, but one thing was undeniable. Roger Jackson's name, once unknown to most, was now infamous. His Rampage had gone viral not because it was entertaining, but because it was terrifying. It was proof that even in a world built on spectacle, reality could break through in the ugliest way possible. And as more unseen footage surfaced, each angle sharper, each moment more horrifying, the fallout grew heavier. This wasn't just a scandal, it was a reckoning. By Tuesday morning, the world outside wrestling had latched onto the Roger Jackson story. It wasn't just niche forums or sports blogs anymore, it was mainstream. Morning shows replayed clips of the attack with pixelated overlays, anchors shaking their heads in disbelief. Legal analysts weighed in, speculating on the charges Roger might face. Headlines blared, wrestling stunt turns to assault, MMA fighter loses control in ring, and unseen footage sparks criminal investigation. The footage had become unavoidable. It was everywhere, on TikTok feeds, stitched into reactions by influencers, replayed endlessly on YouTube breakdowns. Each new angle seemed to magnify the brutality. The sight of Stu's head snapping back against the mat, the thud of Roger's fists, the horrified screams from the crowd. It was etched into the collective memory of everyone who watched. For Stu's family, the sudden attention was overwhelming. His brother posted a heartfelt message asking for prayers, revealing that Stu was still in critical care despite being stable. He described the emotional toll of seeing his loved one attacked in front of hundreds, knowing that millions more were watching online. The post went viral, fueling sympathy for Stu and intensifying anger toward Roger. Legal pressure mounted quickly. On Wednesday, LAPD detectives interviewed multiple witnesses from the event, including fellow wrestlers who had tried to pull Roger off. One of them told reporters outside the station, "This wasn't wrestling. This was a man beating another man who couldn't defend himself. I thought I was watching someone die." Their testimony aligned with what the footage showed, an escalation far beyond what anyone considered performance. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office issued a statement confirming they were reviewing evidence for potential charges of felony assault. While lawyers debated the severity, public opinion had already declared a verdict. To the masses online, Roger was guilty of breaking the unspoken trust of wrestling, guilty of tarnishing his father's legacy, guilty of nearly ending a man's life. Meanwhile, wrestling veterans began to share their own stories. On podcasts and interviews, they explained what it meant to protect your opponent in the ring, emphasizing how sacred that trust was. A Hall of Famer put it bluntly, "If you break that trust, you're done. No one wants to work with you, no one wants to stand across from you, and no one wants to risk their career or life." Rogers finished. For Roger, however, the storm didn't seem to break his defiance. He posted another video late Wednesday, his face lit by a dim glow, insisting that he had been provoked and manipulated. "They wanted me to go out there. They told me to get my payback. I didn't do nothing that wasn't asked of me," he argued. He spoke of haters, of people twisting the story, of being painted as a villain because of who his father was. But his words rang hollow. Screenshots of his earlier bravado, the laughter in private chats, and the smirk he wore in some clips during the aftermath painted a different story. Each attempt to justify himself only inflamed the backlash. Sponsors cut ties, streamers who once collaborated with him scrubbed their old content. Even within MMA circles, fighters distanced themselves, calling his actions embarrassing to the sport. By Thursday, Stu had regained consciousness. Doctors confirmed he would need multiple surgeries to repair his face, and even then, his future in wrestling was uncertain. When fans learned that Stu had relied on wrestling as therapy after his time in the military, the sympathy deepened. Hashtags calling him a hero flooded timelines. Donations to his recovery fund skyrocketed. In sharp contrast, Roger's reputation sank lower. Paparazzi caught him leaving a gym in Los Angeles, flanked by friends. The video uploaded by TMZ showed him snapping at photographers. "You think this is a joke? You're making me the bad guy. Wait until the truth comes out." The clip did nothing to help his image. Then came the lawsuits. By Friday, Stu's legal team announced plans to pursue civil charges against Roger, seeking damages for medical bills, emotional trauma, and lost career opportunities. At the same time, Knox Expo Entertainment faced its own storm. Parents threatening lawsuits for exposing children to the violent incident, talent threatening to quit if safety wasn't prioritized. The ripple effect spread far beyond Roger. Wrestling promoters nationwide issued new guidelines, emphasizing performer safety and banning untrained outsiders from participating in in-ring angles. Roger Jackson had become the cautionary tale whispered in locker rooms. His name was no longer just infamous, it was radioactive. For Rampage Jackson, the personal toll was immense. Interviews showed him visibly pained, torn between a father's instinct to protect his son and his understanding of the gravity of the situation. He made a mistake, Rampage admitted in one interview, but that mistake might cost him everything. He went further, saying he hoped his son would learn humility and accountability, words that hinted at a rift between them. As the weekend approached, mainstream talk shows discussed the broader implications. Was wrestling too reckless in involving non-wrestlers? Was streaming culture fueling ego-driven stunts that blurred reality? Was this a one-off tragedy or a symptom of something larger? Experts debated while clips of the Rampage looped in the background. By Saturday, a week after the incident, the phrase "unseen footage" had become synonymous with Roger Jackson. You couldn't search his name without finding dozens of video thumbnails promising the latest angle or breakdown. The footage had cemented itself as one of the most notorious moments in modern wrestling history, not because it was spectacular, but because it was horrifyingly real. And yet, in the shadows of the backlash, whispers of opportunity lingered. Some speculated that controversial figures always found a way back. Infamy, after all, still drew attention. Could Roger reinvent himself? Could he lean into the villain role, capitalize on the heat, and carve a career out of notoriety? Or had he crossed a line so severe that redemption was impossible? Only time would tell. For now, the wreckage was undeniable. A hospitalized wrestler fighting for recovery, a young fighter branded a pariah, and an entire industry reminded of how thin the line is between spectacle and tragedy. As the week closed, a viral clip circulated. Stu, weak but smiling, speaking from his hospital bed. His voice was raspy, his face bruised and bandaged, but his words resonated. "I'll be back. It's going to take time, but I'll be back. Wrestling gave me a family, and families don't quit on each other." The message drew tears from fans, reaffirming him as a figure of resilience and hope. For Roger Jackson, there was no such moment of grace. His silence grew louder as days passed, his social media accounts abandoned or deactivated. Where once he demanded respect, now he was met with nothing but disdain. The unseen footage had spoken louder than any defense could. And as millions replayed the moment over and over, one truth became clear. Roger Jackson would forever be remembered, not for the fights he wanted to win, not for the legacy he hoped to build, but for a single night when his rage turned spectacle into horror, leaving viewers speechless.